particularly having seen what happened to Dianne Feinstein, Senator Feinstein, from California, who basically died in office. I mean, was she actually doing the job? In those last months or, years, why was she still in office? Why couldn't she resign? Why were people not primarying her? We've got Senator Grassley in Iowa, who's in his 90s. In his 90s. Like, it's time for a generational change. Absolutely time for a generational change. And so I hope that Speaker Pelosi gracefully resigns so that we can celebrate her career and everything that she's accomplished as the first woman to be Speaker of the House in the United States, and multiple times in 2006, and then again under the Barack Obama administration and President Obama administration. And so, shepherded through big pieces of legislation through Congress, both under President Obama and under President Biden. And so that should be celebrated. We shouldn't be sitting here going, why is she staying in office for so long? And the same goes for you, frankly, Senator Schumer and Senator Grassley and a whole bunch of other people. That, though, is a story for another day. I want to thank you all for listening today. Join us up next, on WCPT 820 is Chew's Views with Richard Chew. On AM 950 Radio, it's the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then at 10 p.m. Central, step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. And until this time tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job, for the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
When facts matter, you turn to WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
A fair balance where the facts come out.
Real news, real talk.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Vice President J.D. Vance is in Israel, where he held high-level meetings to nudge forward Gaza's fragile ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and the Vice President talked about a new vision for peace in the Middle East.
How to have the civil government, how to have the security there, who could provide that security there, again, with Israel taking care of overall security always. And we discussed that, and I think we have some very, very good ideas how to proceed. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's possible.
Speaking to reporters, Vance also said the Gaza peace plan is progressing and could be a model for other peace plans in the future.
If we do this the right way, it could create a model, I think, that could lead to other peace agreements all over the world, because it shows what's possible when you're willing to think outside the box and actually put some elbow grease to get it done.
Officials in Ukraine say a large-scale Russian drone and missile attack killed at least 6 people. This comes as plans for another summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are now on hold.
I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time, so I'll see what happens.
The president announced last week they'd meet in Budapest to discuss ending the Ukraine war. But a White House official says there are no plans for a meeting in the near future after a call between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart.
A lot of things are happening on that front, on the war front with Ukraine and Russia. And we'll be notified over the next 2 days as to what we're doing.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov suggests there's no sense of urgency for a meeting and says serious preparations needed before one. Ukraine's president accuses Putin of stalling for time. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
More on this story at apnews.com. This is AP News. It was a false alarm, but alarming. The AP's Mike Hempen has more with sound from Broadcastify.
Aircraft inbound after people trying to get to the cockpit.
Pilots aboard American Airlines Flight 6469 mistakenly thought someone was trying to break into the cockpit, resulting in a return flight to the Omaha airport 40 minutes after taking off for Los Angeles.
No active contact with the flight attendant. It takes about 5 minutes.
An American spokesman says the intercom that pilots and flight attendants used had been left on by accident. The pilots heard some static sound over the intercom. They mistakenly thought someone was trying to break in. The Omaha Airport Authority says there was no security-related incident at the airport.
Dispatch called back, advised no emergency. There was a staffing issue.
The flight was operated by SkyWest. I'm Mike Hempen.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see cloudy skies here for today with temperatures holding rather steady. Breezy northwest winds around 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, decreasing cloud cover, a low near 38. Thursday, sunshine, high 53 degrees. And Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high around 56. Saturday, partial sunshine, high 58. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 46.
With Progressive, you can reach customer service in the way that's easiest for you, by phone, app, or online. We know it would be great if we just magically appeared, but that's more of a genie thing, and we do insurance. But with us, you'd be like, well, it wasn't a genie, but it was great customer service, so that's nice. And sure, you probably would still like the whole 3 wishes thing, so if you meet a genie, you should definitely ask. But when you need us, contact Progressive by phone, app, or online. Just no genies. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. It is time to fight. Welcome to the October 22nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, iHeart, Heartland Signal, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Substack, and Threads. Yeah, that's where we post some stuff. Make sure you guys are keeping plugged in. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. That's where we are on iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Miss Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And definitely make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Great articles there, as always. Our articles and posts give you tools to keep people posted that are in your world, as we say all the time. A couple of really great recent interviews with alderperson Jesse Fuentes, and you want to check those out. We got a busy morning, so I'm going to stay on track today, and primarily because in a very short order, like in a couple of minutes, literally, we will have Mayor Johnson on to talk about some of the upcoming things with the city's budget, primarily. And then in the 6:30 hour, Amanda Weinstein, who is going to be joining us with our good friend Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio, talking about her run for city council. Kurt Mullett will be with us. Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us with candidate for Secretary of State in Indiana, Blythe Potter. And then General William Enyart will be with us in the 7:30 hour to talk about ICE troops and talking about kind of the bookend of what Mayor Johnson may touch on a little bit in terms of ICE and the National Guard, not only in the state of Illinois, but also in Chicago and other areas in the country. So there you go. We're running hard and fast this morning, so I'm going to try to keep it simple because I know the mayor will be joining us in a couple of minutes. To that end, I think one of the big things I want you guys to take away from the show in general is I know I don't hit on everything that maybe one might like me to on a day-to-day basis, but we do line up the very best guests that we can to talk about the topics that I believe are important, or at least that I get from you guys in emails and text messages and such. So I want to thank you guys for that, because I've gotten some really great text messages in the last few days, and certainly some emails in that same vein about topics that are important. So we hear you, we see those, and we try to respond accordingly to make sure that we've got people on the show that fit some of your questions or fit some of the concerns that you have. But I greatly appreciate when I get an email from you that says, hey, Richard, what about this? Or talk to someone about that, or try to have someone on that speaks to this particular topic. So we keep pushing that envelope to get folks on that are there, which is one of the reasons why, I've had a couple of people on this week that have talked about some things that we don't talk about a lot, like cybersecurity. And that to me is a big deal. And particularly as we get closer to the holiday season, which I call the holiday season, Henry, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So because we spend as a society an inordinate amount of money during these four holidays or these four celebrations. So we want to keep bringing you guys the best that we've got, the best that I've got each and every show. And hopefully we continue to fit that. Mayor Johnson will be joining us shortly, so we'll keep an eye and ear out for that. And I know he's got a lot to say, and I've got a couple of things to ask him, and hopefully we'll be able to get all that in the 20 minutes or so that we have the mayor on. And I'll just say that it was quite a joy to have to see our leaders out at the protests this weekend, and Mayor Johnson was one of those voices, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, guys, we appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing us or sending me, hey, Richard, what about this? Hey, Richard, what about that? Let's talk about this. Or how about having an expert on in this space? It doesn't fall on deaf ears. We do our best to get those folks on the show. So how are we looking? We good? Let's go with our...
I am a huge fan of Mayor Brandon Johnson. I have been watching him on his clips on Instagram, and just the fact that how he loves Chicago, how he stands up for Chicagoans, how he manages to sit in that position and be able to lead with love, but also humanity and power is an amazing thing.
So, Mayor Johnson, I take it I can welcome you this morning to the show.
Hey, you can. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate it.
Do you have any idea who that was?
I do not, and if it's a relative, just let me know off the air, okay? Because that would be embarrassing.
It's not a relative. So I wanted to surprise you with a little bit of something. So yesterday on the show, I had on an individual who is a member of one of the most known singing a cappella R&B groups across the globe, and that was Take Six.
Yeah, Take Six.
That was who's going to be here in Chicago Friday up at Ravinia at the Martin Theater, and that was Christian Dentley, who is one of the members of the group Take Six. He was on our show yesterday. I had a chance to interview him. Great guy, and it was really wonderful talking to him. And what happened was he was talking about the importance of music and the connection that it brings for all of us, irrespective of the style of music necessarily. And in that conversation, I said one of the things that I've found about humanity, about music, is it touches our humanity. And I shared with him how you've been really speaking to that so much in recent months. And you really kind of said that at the WCPT anniversary up in Northbrook. And when I said that, he took it away. It was unsolicited. It was not planned. He just spoke well of how and what he thinks of you and your leadership. And, of course, he loves the city of Chicago. He loves the music. He loves the food. And they're going to be here on Friday. So it just was one of those moments of serendipity, and I wanted to share that with you this morning.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the encouragement, and thank you for the surprise. And, grew up listening to a lot of different music. And, of course, if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, there's no way you could have grown up with a love of music and not having Take Six in your repertoire, if you will, of music. So that's truly an honor.
Yeah, it is. You were about to say an older music device. I could feel you kind of course corrected on that. Well, Mayor Johnson, thanks for being with us this morning. As always, it's an honor to have the city of Chicago's mayor with us, the greatest frickin' city in the world, as you've put it so often. And you're making some changes right now in an area that's critically important to the city and the state, and most definitely about the really throughout the rest of the world in terms of managing our budget. It's one of the most important things that any municipality is chartered with doing. And let's be honest, as you and I all are with each other, you've been in the crosshairs the administration has with this and navigating through this. It's tough, but you've been finding your way through it. So let's talk about what's happening with some of the proposed parts, what's going to be, in your mind, part of this most progressive budget in the history of the city of Chicago.
Yeah, well, this has been a long journey, if you will, and it's been in the making for some time to, put forth a progressive budget that reflects, years of organizing. It's truly, it's an honor to be able to carry out the wishes and the aspirations of working people. And so what this budget ultimately does is it protects the people of Chicago from the cuts that are coming down from the Trump administration. As all of your listeners know, President Trump has cut education. I mean, he's literally gone after our Black Student Success Plan. Yeah, he's cut resources to transportation. For the first time in 50 years, we actually secured over $2 billion to extend the red line out south, as we say. And he's withholding those dollars from the south side of Chicago while increasing his investment in Argentina to the tune of $40 billion, right? He's cut healthcare, Medicaid in particular. He's cut off food. Many people will lose their SNAP benefits in a couple of weeks if the government at the federal level doesn't get its act together. So what do? One, I released the largest tip surplus in the history of Chicago, in the tune of $1 billion. That's going to go to our schools. It's going to go to our parks. It's going to go to our libraries, so that the essential programs that are needed, as well as the educational tools that our students deserve, that those resources are there in spite of the cuts that are coming from the federal government. What I also did was I created a community safety fund while challenging the ultra-rich and our large corporations to put more skin in the game. A community safety surcharge that's only going to impact about 3% of our larger corporations. These are the same corporations that just received the largest tax break in the history of America from Donald Trump. It's $100 million that's going to go towards youth employment, mental and behavioral health care support services for first responders. It's going to provide support for domestic violence survivors, and it's going to increase our investment in violence prevention, particularly our CVI program, community violence intervention workers. These are individuals that are on the front lines across the city, diffusing and de-escalating tension. It's been documented that where CVI workers are, they've reduced violence anywhere from 35 to 45% on these individual blocks. And then we challenge these big tech companies, particularly Meta, TikTok. These are big tech companies that have made hundreds of billions of dollars off the backs of our people, and particularly young people, where we have this social media attacks on large companies that's going to generate over $30 million for mental and behavioral health care services. So in other words, Drew, in every area that the Trump administration has cut, my budget protects the interests of working people. And I'm counting on our progressive movement to work collaboratively to ensure that this budget passes and that we can make history in Chicago.
And there's so many things that are part of the budget that are going to be important and far-reaching for so many people in the city of Chicago and, of course, the surrounding area. Will the CVI help to offset what is proposed in terms of funding for supporting domestic violence and sexual violence survivors? Is there going to be is that an offset to? As I know that isn't there going to be a reduction on that side of the island of the column? Sorry.
So no, I know exactly what you're asking. So there are a number of programs that have been primarily funded by ARPA, and what has happened is essentially those dollars have expired. In fact, the ESSER dollars from the federal government, $1.8 billion, those dollars have disappeared. And when it comes to our public health budget was almost $1 billion. But many of those programs were supported by the federal government, and they've cut off all of those grants. So we're talking about a significant reduction of federal resources. Now, in terms of domestic violence survivors, we have increased those dollars in this budget. However, because ARPA has again expired, that's where we're still working through trying to solve for that. At the end of this budget, my ultimate desire is to make sure where people are most vulnerable, the most vulnerable people in Chicago, is that we're showing up for them. So we're still moving numbers around to adjust to the cuts that are coming from the Trump administration. But this is a challenge that I'm fully prepared to take on. And what the ultimate goal is, I'm going to need people to work with my administration to challenge the ultra rich and our large corporations to put more skin in the game. Because without that, Drew, there aren't many options. Many people want to see us cut services and lay people off. That's not what Chicagoans want. There are some, of course, that want a property tax increase. That's not what I propose.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because I think that everybody's affected by property taxes, whether you own property or not. If you rent, you're affected by property taxes because the owner of the property may have to increase the rent for you to, so everybody's affected by property taxes. And that's one that you and I can't shy away from. So let's talk about that, because it is a real deal.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's what I believe we have to do as a city and as a state. I'm going to do my part as the executive of the city of Chicago to challenge, again, these large corporations to put more skin in the game. These are very fundamental progressive values, right? And we also have to ensure that the state of Illinois leans in this moment as well. Most of the revenue ideas that could bring parity and equity across the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois has control over those particular levies. And so what we also need in this moment is Springfield to come together and find other progressive ways in which we can generate revenue. I understand that last year they discussed about 33 progressive revenue ideas in Springfield. They managed to move 3 across the finish line, which means that there are still a number of ideas that are available to us to take that burden off of local municipalities, right? The personal property replacement tax, that's something that municipalities use to balance their budget. In 2022, Brother Chu, we as a city received almost $500 million in the personal property replacement tax. Because the state of Illinois has used those dollars to essentially balance its budget, those resources that were coming to the city of Chicago and other municipalities have been cut in half. And so the very tools that we have used to offset the cuts that are coming from the federal government, the state of Illinois took those to balance their budget. And I get it. Look, we have challenges all over the country. It's not just Chicago and the state of Illinois. It's not just municipalities around Chicago that are dealing with these challenges. It's all over the country. And that's why it's incumbent upon us as progressives, as progressive leaders, that, we don't just offer up lip service in this moment.
Yeah.
People are hurting. They're hurting. Making the ends meet at the end of each week and at the end of each month is becoming increasingly more difficult. And so that's why it's not just the work that we do at the city level. The state of Illinois, and I've received some assurances from the state of Illinois and members of the General Assembly, including the governor, that they are committed to finding progressive revenue. So that's a collective effort, and I'm glad to be a part of that battle to ensure that we're protecting working people.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, I think if I go back to the little clip that we played from Christian Dentley, the one thing that is clear that a lot of people are saying is that imperfect as this making of the stew or the goulash or the whatever we want to call it, the chili that we have to make here when it comes to government, that they know that you are committed to making things better. And that, like any of us that have their heads screwed on straight, you're going to make mistakes or missteps and then quickly correct to say, okay, how do we fix that or not do that again? And I think that the overarching thing, Mayor Johnson, that I want to remind our listeners all over the country is that you are committed to things being better. I've said this to so many people. Do you think Mayor Johnson wants to see the city fail? I mean, how idiotic would that be? He doesn't. He wants it to succeed. It's a big boat that's being moved. And so that's why I take the position of trying to encourage you and other leaders, elected officials, to do the best that you can. Let's find out where there's issues, and then let's fix those. So I believe that that's one of the things that you are working hard to do. A little bit of a pivot, but not too much of a pivot. You mentioned on Saturday, I was at the rally, and I will say that you probably drew from that pastoral little bit of preaching and fire and energy on Saturday, because a lot of people saw that clip of you that you brought the energy that's so needed by progressive politicians right now. And I was asked by one of our listeners to ask you a little bit more about what you meant, what you mean when you spoke about the strike and what that represents, because a lot of people have been asking me, what did that mean? But it was also probably the most salient point of any of the speakers on Saturday, Chicago's protest.
Yeah. Well, look, first of all, I'm so grateful, impressed, in awe of the response and turnout from Chicago and the Chicagoland area. We had an initial estimate of 100,000 people. Richard, I'm being told that, it was anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000, and some estimated 250,000 people came out from the Chicagoland area. So first of all, just hands down, what an incredible display of power and solidarity. And you saw the diversity of our city and our region, Black, brown, white, Asian. There were young people there, people who know who Take 6 is, right? So that was pretty dope to see that. And so, what I'm clear about is that, Donald Trump, with his big nasty bill, we saw the largest upward transfer of wealth from working class, middle class families into the hands of the ultra rich than any other time in the history of our nation. And so for me, it's evident that, authoritarianism cannot operate if you don't have absolute dominance of the economy. And as I said, we have big tech companies that are making hundreds of billions of dollars off of advertising and selling our information off to other bidders. And, at a time in which poverty continues to grow, corporate CEOs used to make 12, 18 times the amount of their average employee. Now it's 212 times more than their average employee. So in other words, you see the wealth gap continues to grow. And, in order for us to really beat back against authoritarianism, we have to stand in solidarity with one another. And if there was ever a time for working people to stand together, united, it's now. And you know why that's important? Because the ultra rich, they're certainly standing in solidarity, right? If you look at the wealthiest individuals on our planet, they all were standing next to Donald Trump. And so they're united. We need to be united. And if you look at every single major movement of social change in our country, these moments and movements were not successful simply because we gave good speeches and we had rallies, right?
Yeah. The what's next. The what's next right? part is critically important to so many people, I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's exactly right. That's all I'm getting at, is that I believe what's next is that we have to unite as working people, unite our power as well as our pocketbooks to send a strong message to the ultra rich that we're not going to accept kings, tyranny and authoritarianism and fascism.
Yeah.
And so the largest general strike in the history of Chicago is when slaves threw down their tools and took up the righteous cause for freedom. And so I do believe that there's much more room for us as workers to send an economic message to the oligarch. And the way you do that is you withhold labor. And if you think about, again, whether it's, ending slavery, whether it's post-Reconstruction, if you look at the civil rights movement, every single major social movement, workers united and demonstrated our collective power to send a message to the ultra-rich and those who want to dominate over everyday working people that we're not going to tolerate it. And so I'm calling for a collective response of workers to defeat, this, inhumane administration that, quite frankly, Chu, is not just happening in this country. You're seeing right-wing extremism rise up all over this world. And so, yes, I'm saying, as a proud member of the labor movement, as someone who comes out of the working class, who was raised by, parents, and particularly my father, who was a part of the labor movement as well, that Dr. King said that if the labor rights movement and the civil rights movement were to ever collide, I'm paraphrasing, what enormous potential it would have.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many more people are like, okay, what's the mayor talking about here? Because is he calling for us to, in what capacity? And that's I know that's a long conversation, and it takes organizing to strike, ironically. But I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think one of the things that a lot of people are saying, and I know I've been saying it since the weekend, what's next? What do we need to be doing next? So as we wrap up, because I know you got to run, and I'm glad you could be with us this morning, what is your quick message to everybody of what you think the next should or could be?
Communities need to start coming together and hosting community town halls. Organization leaders, faith leaders, just block club leaders, business leaders, right? Because if you look at the impact that this is having on small businesses, have you been able to see the desolate that is occurring in many of our communities because people are afraid to shop? You have small business owners that are losing 30, 35, 40% of their economic prowess because of, the terror that's been waged against our cities. The city of Chicago, I believe the global capital of the world. Donald Trump has declared war on Chicago, and he has declared war against cities across America. He literally said that, people who dissent or disagree with him, he described us as enemies from within. And so if you are part of a local business, community, faith community, community-based organizations, start bringing people together, having conversations about how we defend our democracy. And I believe if we start having those conversations, as we continue to unite around a common cause, which is, making sure that we're protecting our democracy and our humanity, I believe those conversations can ignite more people. It was Che Guevara. They said, how do you start a movement? He said, have a conversation. And they said, literally, how do you do that? He said, have conversations, door to door, basement, church, sanctuaries, anywhere that you can bring people together to have a conversation and organize around how do we protect our communities. That's how we start. And then, of course, begin to have larger conversations around how we bring all these communities together at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moments or collective times together to begin to take these messages all over the city of Chicago. So organize, conversations, and of course, solidarity.
Absolutely. Mayor Brandon Johnson, I will tell you that I've talked to a number of people from all over the place. I was away for a week in Canada with my wife, And I had two different occasions where people asked where we were from, and we said Chicago. And one gentleman said to me, "Boy, your mayor is something else." And I had another situation where a person first nodded their head and said, "You should be proud to be from Chicago because you've got a good leader there." Now, that came from two Canadians, so we know they're biased towards to parts of the United States. But I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you again for being with us. Just keep pushing hard, keep doing what you're doing, and keep listening, Mayor Johnson. People, I will tell you this, not as a radio host, but as a guy that lives in the city of Chicago, people are sharing what they want to see you try to get done and things that you're working on. So if I can offer you any suggestion, keep listening to what people are saying about what they want to get done. And I know that from that, you will get a lot of the energy that you need to help to get those things done. So keep on keeping on. Thanks, Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, man.
Thank you.
All right, Mayor Johnson, have a great day. We will talk to you soon. Thanks for sitting in with us for a little bit this morning.
Anytime.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. This is Chew's Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago. I'm Richard Chew. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
Right now, we're going to catch up on all things Wisconsin with our friend Ben Cominos.
The big, beautiful bill is exactly what I expect Republicans to do. They're doing exactly what I expect every single time. The Democratic Party, I actually expect to have the working classes back. And I would hope that they start to run on messaging not only to get back to the status quo that was 2024, but to actually address the fact that, as I often state, if you are under the age of 40, I realize I'm a property owner, but by and large, the idea of owning a home, if you don't own one already, is becoming a pipe dream very quickly. The idea of starting a family is becoming a pipe dream very quickly. And so that's got to be the messaging. And Donald Trump, for all his bluster, hasn't done a damn thing to do something about it.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
I love a day on the water with friends, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis sometimes holds me back. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
Teaching music is my passion, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm treating my joint symptoms with Skyrizi.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months.
Or if you are an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see cloudy skies here for today with temperatures holding rather steady. Breezy northwest winds around 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, decreasing cloud cover, a low near 38. Thursday, sunshine, a high 53 degrees. And Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high around 56. Saturday, partial sunshine, high 58. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 47.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Chew's Views, 773-763-9278. It was great having Mayor Brandon Johnson with us this morning. What can I say? The dude is so imperfect that he's working on ways to make things better. He realizes that the city is calling for him to do even more, and he's rising to the challenge. I dare say, as I've said so many times, I don't think that any of our elected officials that are Democrats, progressives, want to fail, but they're working hard to make things better. So part of our job is to keep talking to them about the things that need to be done. and as best I can, I'm going to provide access to the mayor in terms of having him on the show to talk about those things. So his budget is the city's budget is definitely one of the things that's going to be a big conversation in these days and weeks to come. So we'll keep you informed. We are always I always compliment the people that help in contributions to the show. Can't get my words right. And one of those people is our good friend Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio. Kurt is always sending me something to say, hey, Richard, check this out. Hey, Richard, check this out. He's also been very, very supportive of Ohio politics and people who are running for office in the state of Ohio, whether it be a city office, whether it be a state office, whatever it might be. And with us this morning, of course, is our good friend Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio. Hey, Kurt, good morning. Welcome to the show. Is he there? Kurt, did we lose you?
Here.
Oh, you put it?
Yeah, I'm here.
You put us on mute.
I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yeah. Are you there? Can you hear
Sorry.
me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
Hey, the one thing you should have mentioned too is I will get you people that I can't even vote for because they're not in my district.
It doesn't matter. That's why I said the state of Ohio, because some people you can't vote for and others you can. But at the end of the day, your mission, self-described, is to find people who are going to represent the state of Ohio in a better way. And that's what I'm excited about with our next guest. I'll let you take a quick moment and introduce our next guest, and then we'll dive right in.
Okay, well, I am pleased to introduce to the Chicagoland area the candidate for Hudson City Council at Large, Amanda Weinstein.
Amanda, how are you this morning?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. You're doing great? I think I can hear it in your voice.
I am very excited. I will say I'm an optimistic person. I know a lot of people out there might not know Hudson. Hudson is a town of about 23,000 people in between Cleveland and Akron. It is a great place to live, and it is a great place to get things done. And I am ready to get a new majority on this Hudson City Council where we get stuff done for people, because almost all of our politics that we actually engage with day to day is local. All politics is local, which I know you love to say. And that is where it starts. It starts at our local level, where we can get great school districts, parks, sidewalks, deal with stormwater management from the increased number of storms and flooding that we have, and get stuff done so that people can actually see a government works for the people. And I am very excited about that.
And you should be, because there's so much opportunity there and so many great folks in that community. Mayor Johnson was just on a moment ago, and I asked him, after the protests this weekend here in Chicago and throughout the country, my question to him was, what's next? And his part of his answer was community organizing and folks coming together on a local level to make sure that the folks like the Amanda Weinsteins of the world are connecting with people. When you're in a 20,000, 30,000 town, population, and you're doing that. And so, but I want to ask you this other question, Amanda, and that is a little bit of historical perspective. Share it with the audience, what it is, a little bit about your history and what put you in the position to say, this is my time. I have to do this.
Oh, man, where do we start? So that's a great question. So I'm an economist. I love policy, and I focus on local economic development. So my husband is actually a state senator for Ohio, and you can hear us around the dinner table talking policy. I think that is how I stay married to a politician, is that I love talking policy. But I especially love policy related to our local economies. This is where economic development starts. And a lot of our work that we traditionally call community development is actually economic development. My own research says that when you focus on things like your parks, like your schools, you actually have a bigger impact on your economic development with more jobs, higher incomes for everyday folks. And that is what I think is really exciting. So what brought me specifically to this position is I saw a city council who was kind of gumming up the works, slowing everything down. I really wanted a new playground. A lot of our playgrounds need updates, frankly, and they're not getting them. So I helped raise money from grants, state money, county money. We've raised now over, I think, $1.7 million for a new playground here in Hudson. And the playground is a playground that is fully inclusive, meaning that any kid of any ability can come play on this playground, which we don't currently have that in Hudson. And what we've seen from our city council was stalls. It's now been 3 years that we've been working on this playground. And as I started to talk with more and more people, they were experiencing the same thing. We had a volunteer fire department, and they wanted fire resources that were appropriate for our town of now 23,000. And we wanted to roll out fiber broadband. We now work more and more with remote jobs at home using fiber broadband, and we saw that stalled. And I just saw project after project stalled because we had a city council majority who frankly just didn't want to do it. They didn't think it was the role of government to be pushing forward with fiber. They didn't want to see investments in our parks because most of them don't have small children anymore. They didn't see the value in it. I have small children. I see an immense value to a park this way. And I've seen when government works well what it can do. I helped get a splash pad in our town when my husband was actually on city council, and it happened within what seemed a matter of months when you had a government that works. But when you have a government that doesn't, you stall for 3 years a playground. I want to get a government that works so we can get the things that our families need and want in our community.
That's such a powerful statement about a government that works. Too many stalled projects.
That's right.
And one of the things that's interesting, I was just playing this out visually when you were talking about, many of them don't have children, so a park for them, they can't see that that it's not just about children having a park to be in. It's for all of us to be able to enjoy. One of the things that Chicago gets noted for pretty much every year, the last 8 or 9 years, is that we have some of the best parks in the world. And this comes from people who travel here, not from people who live here. So parks are not just about, kids having a place to go and play. That's part of it. But it's also, there's an environmental capacity to that. And I know that, and I'm gonna rope Kurt here in a moment. But I know that you and your husband must talk about this because parks are also an environmental benefit for all of us. Talk a little bit about that from a policy standpoint.
That's exactly right. So my husband swung a swing district. I am hoping to swing Hudson, Ohio. And he did it in part. So he now is in a blue-leaning district, but historically in the first district he won at the state level was red-leaning. And he did it by talking about environmental issues. And a lot of people ask, well, how did he do that, right? This seems like, a blue issue, a left issue. And the truth is the way that he talks about environmental issues and the way I talk about it here in Hudson is we live in a place that has an environment, and that environment affects our health, affects our families, affects our well-being. When we have poor air quality, what you get is more kids with childhood asthma. I have 3 children. 2 out of the 3 of them have childhood asthma. We are spending money on inhalers and doctor's visits because our environment is not as good as it should be. When you look at flooding, when we think about the flooding that is occurring in a lot of locations, it's occurring because we have more of these extreme weather events from climate change. Now that means we are dealing with flooding where you're potentially risking lives, risking houses. This affects Hudson. This affects many towns when we talk about flooding. So we actually have an environmental awareness commission, which our current council is actually hoping, I think, to roll it into another one and kind of have it slowly go away. I want to do the opposite. I want to expand the mission of that environmental awareness council. What I want them to do is talk more about our environment and how it affects Hudson and our families. I want them to talk about the flooding we have and to talk about our parks and to talk about our land conservation and to talk about our trees, because all of these things are affecting our air quality and they're affecting the storms and the flooding that we have from those storms.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, you go.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and obviously with our weather patterns having changed, for not changing, they are already changed.
That's right.
That is another reason why we've got to pay incredibly tight attention to what's happening to our environment. And if having better parks, having better land mass usage is part of it, then kudos to any representative of on any level, elected official, that's going to continue to push that effort and that narrative.
Thank you. I think it's exciting when I talk about it with families, even families who maybe look at what are we going to do in Hudson, Ohio about our climate change, right? Well, we can do something locally. I love that you talked about, right, it is important for all of us to get out there and to share our voices and for people to know where the majority stands, but then where do we go from there, right? There are a lot of places we can go from there. And really it's about engaging in kind of what matters most to you, where you can engage, where you can step in. If that is the environment, let's come talk about how it's affecting our families. Let's talk about our air quality and childhood asthma. Let's talk about our flooding. And let's also talk about locally where our government is preventing us from getting things done that would improve our environment, improve our access to parks and amenities and good quality education. And a lot of that is we're seeing extremism at every level of government. Absolutely at the federal level of government, but when we start to see it in our state house and even at a local level, it prevents things from happening, right? So we have a city council president who suggested a rule where he gets to choose who carries a gun into city council. This is the type of legislation we're talking about instead of getting a playground done.
Yeah.
Right? This is what happens when you have that extremism.
Yeah. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to Amanda Weinstein, who's running for Hudson City Council in Ohio, and our good friend from Ohio, Kurt Hurner. Kurt, you made a point earlier, and I want you to touch on this real quickly with regard to the state of Ohio. You can't vote in every election that takes place. For example, you can't vote in this city council election, but you know the importance of everybody voting in the entire state of Ohio or in any state election, wherever you are, because of the fact that without people turning out, we don't get the Amandas on a city council that are going to be a break away from this craziness that she just talked about. Share a couple of thoughts about voting and the importance of it throughout the state of Ohio.
Okay, I will. But first thing is, Amanda, the thing you just mentioned about your city council president, that will not be an isolated incident. That has a history in other places. And I've told you this before about Mount Pleasant, Iowa, about 40 years ago, where a distraught citizen of Mount Pleasant, Iowa, came to a city council meeting upset about his sewer bill. And he shot and killed the mayor of Mount Pleasant, Iowa, Ed King. So, I mean, that's not an isolated incident that could happen.
It's crazy. It's crazy. First of all.
Yes, we're talking about going back to the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And we've seen political violence in this country.
Yeah. So, Kurt, just real quickly on the importance of voting throughout the entire state. Okay. Just a couple quick thoughts there.
It is important in the sense that by not voting, you end up with not getting an Amanda Weinstein. You end up getting a Vivek Ramaswamy for governor. You end up getting and keeping a John Husted for U.S. Senator rather than a Sherrod Brown or, at this point, an Amy Acton. Yes, polls are starting to shift more to the Democratic Party at this point in the state of Ohio, but they're still too close. So we need to get people involved. That means I would like to see city government and school boards and people like that all working together to educate people, not only just the voters, but the students, to also get out there and maybe campaign and canvass on their behalf. Because, even though they may not be able to vote in this election, they're going to vote in the next election or the one after that. So it's important to get young people involved now in order to get that bug going. You have small children, get them involved in some way to help, not only with your campaign or with your husband's next campaign, but with people on the school board or people around the state or around the city. That's how we need to do that as far as getting the voting out there.
Absolutely. Amanda, you mentioned that you're an economist, but we can't just skip by the fact that you're an Air Force veteran. And so I'm going to throw a couple things at you at one time. You're kind of a contiguous state, neighboring state. Amy McGrath is running for Senate in Kentucky, which I'm excited about. We've had her on the show a few times. But I want to, as I throw this all at you one time, Amy's running, you're running, you're a veteran of the Air Force. And I just want to get your observations about the Trump administration using ICE and the discussion now going up to the Supreme Court of being able to use federal troops, National Guard troops in major cities in the United States of America. Where are you in this conversation?
Look,
as a veteran, sorry.
Yeah, as a veteran. So first, I think we need to start with an attack on immigrant rights, documented or undocumented, is an attack on all of our rights. We had a gentleman here in Hudson, Rami Hamuri, who was taken and detained, lived here for decades. His family is here. His children are here, detained. If they can detain anyone without due process, that means they can detain me and say, oh, you're not a citizen. Well, let me show you. Nope, we're going to wait on you proving that you're a citizen. We're going to wait for that due process. An attack on immigrants is an attack on all of us. And I signed up to be in the military to defend our people's rights, not infringe upon them. And this is what we see the federal government doing with our military right now, is using that military to infringe upon the rights that have been guaranteed to us in the Constitution. And the first thing you do when you get sworn in is you raise your right hand and you swear to defend the Constitution. You don't defend to swear a president or a person. It is the Constitution of the United States that you swear to defend. Using our military forces to infringe upon those rights in any way is at least a not appropriate use of our military forces.
I could tell you wanted to cuss right then, Amanda. I could feel it. It's like if me and my wife, you and State Senator hubby of yours were sitting around talking, man, it would have come out. I could just feel it.
It would have come out. Yeah, that is also from the military. I think it's hard to get out of the military without having colorful words, I'll say, be part of your regular vocabulary.
Yeah, I could feel it. It was ready to fly. Listen, one of our great listeners and oftentimes contributors to the show just sent me a little bit of information. Her name is Natalie Ziemba, and she is part of she's a councilwoman in Woodstock, Illinois, 25,000 in population, and they get stuff done. They just do. They've built an intergenerational playground. They've done a ton of things that are that mirror what you're talking about wanting to get done. Now, I recognize that Illinois is a blue state. Some of our suburbs are kind of purplish. But at the end of the day, it's great ideas like those that Natalie and her team have gotten done, and that you and your team, potential team, are talking about getting done. So I send you that. I share that with you, I should say, to add some fuel to your fire in terms of knowing that there are other folks that are in small proportionately or population-wise communities that are getting things done on a city council level. And I just wanted to be able to share that with you as some added, air beneath your wings.
I love that. And at the local level, we have a real shot to start engaging with people who vote on either side of the aisle. Because the truth is when you start to talk about a park, people don't have there's not a natural red versus blue there. When you're talking about a sidewalk or stormwater, there's not a natural fit with how we think about, right versus left. It is a nice way to start to engage people in government and what government can do that isn't polarizing and isn't partisan the way that other politics gets at the federal level.
Yeah, very true. How can folks find you, Amanda, and get involved with your campaign and other things that are happening in that part of Ohio?
Well, that's a great question. So I'm on Facebook. I have a website. It is Amanda for Hudson Council. Amanda Weinstein for Council.com. We are very excited. I would also encourage everyone to look at their local elections. If you have local elections right now, there's lots of ways to get involved, whether it's dropping lit, knocking doors, just talking with folks, just talking with your friends, neighbors, talking when you're in your, local grocery store with people. All of those little conversations and little things really matter.
Fantastic. We're going to leave it there. Thanks to you both for being with us. Thanks to Kurt Hurner from Ohio and Amanda Weinstein. Thank you so much for being with us on Choose
Richard,
Fuse.
I just want to say one thing real quick. This is something that's really important. When I was growing up, Hudson was considered what people would call Reaganville. My grandfather actually used to actually do the heating and cooling in all the Prestige homes up there. And I don't know, Amanda, if you're aware of Prestige homes or not. It was a company that up north in Summit County that used to build houses. Well, my grandfather had the contract for all of those houses for doing the heating and cooling. And we always referred to it as Reaganville because it was nothing but a bunch of Republicans that lived up there. In fact, I can still see Dan Quayle in 1992 doing a rally there where someone took a street sign down that said Clinton Avenue and made it Quayle Drive. But something that you told me and then someone else told me, so I know it has to be true because I have two different sources on this, and you and I know this mutual person, Amanda, is in 2020 and in 2024, Hudson voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in 2020 and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in 2024. So it seems like the educated liberals are starting to move into that area.
That's right. Hudson has been bluing. That has upset some people in town. That has definitely upset our current council majority. It's been bluing, and frankly, our current council and some of the extremist policies, like choosing who gets to carry a gun in council, doesn't represent Hudson. And it doesn't represent current Hudson. It also doesn't represent some of historic Hudson. You have some of even the historic Republicans who have been here are not happy with their current Republican Party. And you see a Hudson that wants to see a government that works for people. And we have a real shot at changing that and getting a majority on council that is, now progressive in Hudson, which has, as far as I know, it never happened.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's so much more to talk about, and I wish we had more time, but we are tight on time today. Again, Kurt, thanks for helping to get Amanda on. And Amanda, anything that we can do to help, let us know. We'll have you back on. We'll reach out to you. We'll get something set up to make sure that we get you across that finish line. Thanks for being with us this morning,
good
guys.
Good luck on November 4th.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of the day. Talk to you soon.
Too.
Bye now.
All right.
All right, let's go to a quick break, Henry. I know we're tight on time. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
GLP-1 weight loss medications are increasingly popular. The drugs have pluses and minuses. Dr. Ziad Al-Ali is a clinical epidemiologist at Washington University in St. Louis. And today he tells us of some surprising benefits.
We saw that these drugs reduced the risk of several problems, including substance use disorders. We saw reduced risk of alcohol problems, cannabis use disorders, stimulant use disorders, and opioid use disorder. We also saw reduced risk of suicidal ideation and schizophrenia and psychotic disorders. To our surprise, we also saw that some patients benefited from this by reducing the risk of memory problems and memory loss in situations like Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And we also saw reduced risk of clotting problems, risk of infections, fatty liver disease, and liver cancer.
Next time, we'll share some potential downsides of the drugs. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Are you looking to get that new computer so you can do great things like surf the web, find Heartland Signal, and stream WCPT? Let's look at some computer companies that support the Democratic Party. Lenovo donates $56,000 to the Democratic Party in 2024. That's 89% of their donations. While Hewlett-Packard, or HP, donated $383,000 to the Democratic Party, as well 89% of their donations went to Democrats. Apple donated $4,701,347 to the Democratic Party. Microsoft donated $5,397,633 to Democrats in 2024, while Sony donated $1,268,000 to the Democratic Party in 2024. That was 95% of their donations, everybody. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
You've still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it hard to fight the flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump's pick to lead a federal watchdog agency withdrew from consideration last night after Politico published a text chat containing offensive text messages from Paul Ingrassia. After the texts came to light, several Republican senators said they would not support his nomination to lead the office of special counsel. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called on the president to fire him from his current position as a White House liaison for the Department of Homeland Security.
Mr. President, these are texts from a presidential nominee. Did they vet them?
And if they vet them and they know these things, they shrug their shoulders and say that's okay? These texts are foul and disqualifying, and it's hard to believe there be any process in any White House that would allow such a man through to be nominated. This person does not merit confirmation by this body. And I'm glad a number of our Republican colleagues have said so. That's good and necessary.
The federal government shutdown is now in its fourth week. Democrats are demanding that expiring health care subsidies be extended. Republicans are refusing to negotiate with them. Immigration agents targeted vendors in New York City's famed Canal Street. Angry New Yorkers surrounded and tried to block the agents, prompting arrests and standoffs. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security said the agents were conducting an enforcement operation against sellers of counterfeit goods. Peru's new president, José Heri, declared a state of emergency in the capital yesterday. The move is the government's latest attempt to stem a surge in violence that has sparked protests and contributed to the recent downfall of his predecessor. And the Louvre reopened its doors today, just 3 days after one of the highest-profile museum thefts of the century. The thieves slipped in and out of the world's most visited museum, taking off with 8 pieces from France's crown jewels. The jewels are still missing, and no arrests have been announced. This is AP News. Ukraine's state security service has unveiled an upgraded sea drone that officials say can operate anywhere in the Black Sea. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma has the details.
This particular drone, known as the Sea Baby, can carry heavier weapons and use artificial intelligence for targeting. Sea Baby has an expanded range and can carry up to 2,000 kilograms of payload. These vessels also feature AI-assisted targeted systems and can also focus on launching small aerial attack drones. The Security Service of Ukraine credits such drones with forcing a strategic shift in Russia's naval operations. The sea drones have helped carry out other high-profile strikes, including repeated attacks on the Crimean Bridge. The program is partially funded by public donations and coordinated with Ukraine's military leadership. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
More on this and other stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see cloudy skies here for today with temperatures holding rather steady. Breezy northwest winds around 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, decreasing cloud cover, a low near 38. Thursday, sunshine, a high 53 degrees. And Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high around 56. Saturday, partial sunshine, high 58. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
With Progressive, you can reach customer service in the way that's easiest for you, by phone, app, or online. We know it would be great if we just magically appeared, but that's more of a genie thing, and we do insurance. But with us, you'd be like, well, it wasn't a genie, but it was great customer service, so that's nice. And sure, you probably would still like the whole 3 wishes thing, so if you meet a genie, you should definitely ask. But when you need us, contact Progressive by phone, app, or online. Just no genies. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks to Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio for hanging out with us and introducing us to Amy. I'm sorry, Amy, I apologize. Amanda, I'm looking at something. That's why you shouldn't read something and be talking about something else. Golly. Amanda Weinstein for being with us this morning. She's great. Thanks for Mayor Johnson for being with us in the first segment of the show. Today on Live Local and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by Chicago Alder Jesse Fuentes, who is suing the Department of Homeland Security over her October 3rd arrest at the Northwest Side Hospital. You guys may have seen that. It made national news. Robert Held, Chicago attorney, recently detained by ICE but not charged with a crime. Spencer Critchley, author of Patriots of Two Nations and host of The Dastardly Cleverness in the Service of Good. That's a podcast. Dastardly Cleverness. Makes me think of Dick Dastardly, but from the cartoons back in the 70s. Live, local, and progressive. That's Joe Esposito, 2 to 5 Central on WCPT AM 820, heartlandsignal.com. And tune in tonight on Driving It Home. Patty Vasquez will be talking to Cheryl Finn, from the Symphony of Oak Park River Forest, and Joel Blythe and Justin Perkins of Barn Raiser. Yes, your independent source for rural and small town news. Then during the second hour of the show, Patty will take part in the Up North podcast, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, AM 820, Heartland Signal, website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow, my guest will be Texas Representative Gene Wu. Can't wait to talk with him. And Leah Littman, author, professor, Lawless, How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, Bad Vibes. That's professor of law, University of Michigan. Looking forward to having her with us tomorrow. All right, guys, we'll call it kind of Candidates Day in some ways. Our good friend, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 is with us on the line, and also the individual that he and I spoke about last week that's running for Indiana Secretary of State, Blythe Potter. Good morning, Kurt, and good morning, Blythe. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir? What's going on? How you feeling today?
I'm doing great. I just think you need to find some more things to do, because you seem like you just don't have much going on. So, just some advice, friendly advice.
Well, you are a good friend, and I take advice from folks who tell me to listen up. But I'm honored and grateful and humbled by what I get to do in this space. And if it's bringing voices like Blythe Potter's to the radio so that folks all over can hear about what she's doing or about to get ready to do, then I'm honored to be able to do that. Blythe Potter for Indiana Secretary of State, y'all. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'll dive into the deep end of the pool, as I often say. And again, thanks to Kurt for helping get you on the show this morning. But Blythe, you're running in one of these states where, it's been highly read and very dangerous to the safety and the progress of the citizens of the state of Indiana. But tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, so that we can get into why your candidacy is so important right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me. And Kurt is a huge champion of Hoosiers and candidates, and it's so inspiring and nice to see other Hoosiers who know we need to change. I'm Blythe Potter. I am a small business owner. I'm a veteran. I was in the military police corps. I was a bodyguard in Iraq for General George Casey. I run a small business. I'm an esthetician and massage therapist. I own a salon and spa for over 6 years. So I know how to navigate the government bureaucracies. I know how we can improve customer service on the side of the Secretary of State's office. And there's such a mess right now in our Secretary of State. But I don't know if you hear the headlines down here, but we've got unrestricted worldwide travel. We've got vehicles being purchased, and just so much corruption. And many of our agencies, and we're in crisis. So I feel like it's a go big or go home year next year. Although I thought that last year too. So.
Well, listen, Blythe, to that point, it is that time. It's always that time until we get things back in order, and it takes folks like you that are running, whether it be in Indiana, Illinois, California, wherever, that are going to fight and going to push hard against this, the tyranny that's taking place on a federal level, but also on a state level. It's the grift. It's the big grift right now. And,
it is.
And Kurt's talked about this on a number of occasions in terms of the lack of leadership that you guys have in Indiana. As Indiana goes, any of our big Midwestern states, our industrial, our manufacturing states, historically, Illinois, of course, Michigan, Ohio, and, of course, Indiana. And so to see that kind of craziness is going on is terrible. But you've got some named competitors, I guess you could say, that are running in terms of one of the buys is back in the conversation again. So what are you, in your mind, bringing to the table that's going to be different than someone from your own party in this upcoming race?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And the best answer I can give is not only have I lived here my whole life, but being a female in a state like Indiana, I am the target for most of the bad policy and bad legislation that's been happening since before I was born. I'm 43 years old. So as a millennial, I was born in an economic crisis. I've experienced economic crises as an adult. And I feel like being an end user for so long of so many bad policies, I know what I need to see change to help myself and my family and my community, but my children as well. I have 2 stepdaughters who are of reproductive age. I have a 5-year-old daughter. So our voting rights are on the line. Our health metrics are terrible. Our environmental metrics are terrible. And I'm of the opinion it's gotten so bad for so long, and it's finally we're really at the bottom of the barrel in a lot of ways here. So I think what we need to really realize is, well, myself included, I was born and raised in a very Republican family. So I know what that mentality is. I know what that identity is as a Hoosier, saying you're a Republican and not necessarily knowing the ramifications of that statement, because that party is no longer the Republican Party we once had, right? It's, for all intents and purposes, it's turned into a terrorist organization when we're talking about our elected officials and the leadership of the Republicans. So who better to change things than someone who knows how things happen in this office and knows the only way out of this is to vote our way out of it. And we need an educated voter base.
Yeah, that's a big that statement there, Blythe, is you let's put a magnifying glass on that. We need an educated voter base, because I would submit that there are a lot of people who voted in this last election, whether they voted for Trump in the national election, the House, the Senate, the state legislatures, that are not educated voters. I won't say they're uneducated people, because I don't know that, but I would say that they're uneducated or miseducated about what is really happening. I mean, how in the heck do you have people that actually would believe that they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats during a presidential debate, and not challenge that as a mindful person to go, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if it's a lie or not. It just doesn't make any sense. So let's talk about what we can do to better educate our voting blocks throughout the country.
Yeah, so we have to be able to recognize when we're being lied to. And I think where we need to start is we've been lied to by politicians left and right for a long time. Transparency isn't really a thing that happens here. And we've, especially in Indiana, been lied to by the Republican Party, which can be in cahoots with many religious backgrounds. But by and large, the biggest lie the Republicans have told is that the Democrats have caused all the problems. But when you are literally born into a home like myself, and remember, I was born without internet access and cell phones, you're just told this, right? Just like you're told you brush your teeth before bed. So this is like somehow part of our DNA that we have to unlearn. And that's where the education piece comes in. Now, this year for my campaign, it will be a little more challenging. But as Secretary of State, the most important thing I think I can do is implement a program where every registered voter gets a booklet in the mail to their registered address telling them exactly who is on their ballot, a quick bit of platform where they can find more information, where is their voting location, where can they update registration if they're getting ready to move. You know, information to better educate people. We know civics has been taken out of most curriculum, and we also know that we aren't, in Indiana, good Hoosiers do not talk politics. We have to stop that.
Yeah.
We have to stop being told that this is impolite to talk about something that tells you whether or not you have clean water, clean air, food, safe shelter, or anything, right? Like, politicians govern the fact that I can speak to you right now. They make every decision for us, but it's in the background, so we just don't think it. We think we have autonomy, but we don't have as much as we think. So information is so powerful.
Yeah, and access to it is critically important. When we have a federal government and in many cases, like in your state, state-run governments that want to take away a person's access to information, not just books, but social information, then we've got a very, very big problem. You're listening To choose views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to U.S. Army veteran, mother, wife, and someone that's running in the Hoosier State for a very, 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 very important office, and that's Secretary of State in Indiana, Blythe Potter. Thank you for being with us this morning, Blythe. I want to ask you a question that's, I guess it's probably talking about some of the things that have, as we talked earlier about transparency and public trust. One of the names that's really been a drag on your public trust in Indiana is Diego Morales, and obviously your governor has been, and your lieutenant governor has been, but particularly Diego Morales. So let's talk a little bit about that for a moment.
Oh, buddy, I don't even know where to begin. It's so frustrating, right? Because in my soul, I want to think, oh my God, an immigrant in Indiana has been elected to an executive office. This should be freaking amazing. We should be shouting from the rooftops, this is so fantastic, right? Like, our immigrant community is so vital to us in so many ways, not just personal relationships, but also our economy. But, I mean, if he isn't corrupt, I don't know what is. He had a lovely group of Democrats who actually helped him get his citizenship, and it just seems like climbing his way to the top has been without any concern of who he's going to hurt. Last year in October, he purged 585,000 voters. Now, I'm not saying those voters shouldn't maybe have been purged at one point over his previous 3 years, but doing it right before an election when they, one, don't know, and two, can't update it or fix it, that's shady.
Yeah.
And it's not transparent. And he did it again this year, but he's targeting immigrants. And I don't know where we really begin to build trust, because unfortunately, for people who don't know my work ethic and don't know that I hold myself accountable and expect to be held accountable, even though it's incredibly uncomfortable and sometimes embarrassing, I'm going to screw up. I'm going to say the wrong things. I will misremember things. I'll misquote things. But I can be held accountable. And I'm hoping that there will be enough people who've had interactions with me to realize that perhaps this crazy Democrat could be trusted, and maybe we can start having better expectations for our elected officials, bring humanity back into politics, and stop expecting the perfection. Because in some way, I think looking for the perfect candidate puts a lot of pressure on politicians to be just that. And that's how it starts, right? You want to have a good public image, so, okay, fine, I'll just fudge this. Oh, I'll omit that or neglect this. And I think it's a slippery slope. Now, do I think that's the case with most of these people in office like Diego? No, I think he just is power hungry. But I want to bring that trust back. I want to make this office boring again. I want it to be behind the curtains, doing its job the way it needs to be doing, and updating the public as necessary, and keep it simple so we can go about our lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, and you talked about it, and as it relates to him being an immigrant that was helped by so many people, frankly, on the left or center, to establish himself and go forward. And then, as I say, then he snatched up the ladder. He didn't snatch up the ladder. He kicked it over.
Absolutely. And then shot a fireball at it.
Right. And dared you to go near it so that you might get hurt. And that's one of the things that Kurt talks a lot about is, calling people on their quote unquote BS in the moment. I talk about that a lot, calling them on it right now. And you've kind of, from what I've seen and what I've been following, you've kind of had a knack in this campaign of doing that and just saying, listen, that you call things out right in the moment. And I think more of that needs to be happening from all of the folks that are running right now. And it seems to be one of the things that I've noticed is coming from, and I'm just going to say this, I normally don't go too much into the age conversation, but I do see some of the chronological younger voices calling things out in the moment as they see them. And you've become pretty good at doing that. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. We grew up, especially as women in the Midwest, like, we're people pleasers. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And over time, I noticed as I stopped caring about making people happy and just doing what felt authentic and right, you lose a lot of friends that way. But you also realize who your people are.
Yep.
So I'm very honored to be lumped in with our youth because they are so brave. My oldest stepdaughter, the year my daughter was born, she was born in 2020, went to a protest against abortion, losing our abortion rights. And I'd never been to a protest before this year. So this is like weird for me, right? My 16-year-old stepdaughter is protesting, and she's got this like badass feminist sign about cats and claws and abortion rights. And I was like, oh my God, look at all of these young people.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if that's what my stepdaughters need to see in their leadership, okay, I'm gonna start speaking up more too. So I started speaking up a little more on social media. Lost a lot of friends there, and then I started speaking up more in the community, which always kind of backfires. But I think we need to be better being comfortable being uncomfortable with being faced with truth and reality and opposition, and even just civil civic discourse. Right? We can have a conversation about why I think I'm right and why I think you're wrong without punching each other or losing a relationship. But that's not something we're taught either. So some of holding people accountable in the moment is really just trying to push back against that Hoosier hospitality that we were raised with.
Yeah, I love the way that you frame that in terms of a Midwestern thing. It is. I mean, I was talking, I can't remember who I was talking about. Maybe it was my wife, about the impacts of how we interact with each other over generations. And there is a lot to be said about that, and rather than but. And I think that we all have to contribute to it in this current political environment. We have to recognize that, there's conversations right now about the age of politicians, chronological age of politicians across the board. But I don't really care about what the hell's going on the Republican side. I'm more concerned about our team getting stronger and better and moving faster. And you're part of that work. Let me ask you a couple of last quick questions, Blythe. And again, I want to thank my man Kurt for having the courage and the steadfastness that he has in getting voices on and doing what we can to amplify those voices. New Power is an organization that you've been been a part of, or they've been a part of what you're trying to do. Talk a little bit about New Power as we talk about some of the age and generational things that are going on.
Well, we have quite a conundrum in politics and age, right? We've got and this is stereotyping, I understand, but it's also something we can observe. We have what seems to be our baby boomers holding on to power because they weren't taught to share the baton, pass the baton, teach who's coming up. Like, we have to be teaching our successors. And part of that problem is also that we don't have a lot of term limits in place. So long term, that's a big goal of mine, is to get a ballot initiative. We need term limits up and down the ballot. Maybe that's 8 or 12 years. But there is so much value in having diversity in leadership as far as age and experience. And I think we lose that when we only have people who are, we'll say it's on the young side, 60 and over. And no shade to 60-year-olds. I'm often the youngest person at a protest because it's the 60-plus-year-olds who are like, no, we're not doing this again. So it's amazing to see them stepping up. So it is. You know where that's
coming from. I'm being one of those, and you know where that's coming from is because we thought, when I talked to my sister Linda about this about 2 years ago about Roe v. Wade, I won't use the language that she used on the air, but she basically said that she doesn't want to have this fight all over again because she had it in the late 60s, early 70s. I watched her in this fight on Roe v. Wade. So a lot of us, quote unquote, chronological olders are back in the fight. Not that we want to be. Trust me, Kurt and I don't want to be doing this fight right now. But we know we've got to get back in the fight. I think what we have to do, though, is make sure that we're saying to the Amandas and the Blythes of the world, okay, we got you. We're ready to pass this baton on because we're tired and we need to chill out for a minute. But Blythe, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to compliment you on your observation there.
Oh, thank you. No, that wasn't interrupting at all. I don't want to be in this fight. This was not my plan for my life. I never wanted to be involved in politics, but I also wasn't taught that it is detrimental. It is existential that we be involved in politics in some capacity. We need to be plugged in, and it doesn't have to be a party, but we need to know what's happening. One, our tax dollars are paying these people to treat us like garbage. In Indiana, we currently have a gross taxation without representation, Republican and Democrat, because they are not listening to us. I know my Republican peers and neighbors are calling their elected officials every day and angry. I know they are marching alongside me. I know they are angry, even if they're not saying it out loud. And it's not a fight I want. I do not want to get up at 6 a.m. to have interviews to get the word out. But you know what? We have to do this. You and I and Kurt and people who are in our orbit have to keep doing this, because not doing it is what got us here. So I'm hoping that our children, my children, stepchildren, our youth are going to see this and realize, okay, this is something that not only do I need to replicate as I age. Now, hopefully it's not as like 24/7 as it feels right now, because this feels chaotic, right? But I'm hoping that we start planting a seed for future generations that, much like you need to get 8 hours of sleep, you need to pay attention to what is governing you, because it is that important. It's become a necessity of life, much like air and water and food and sleep and safe havens and safe relationships. Like, we have to switch how we're raising our children, because literally the existence of humanity and our earth do now rely on it.
It definitely does. Kurt, thank you for being with us, and Wednesdays are our slot, but thank you for sharing it with Blythe this morning. A couple quick comments for you before we wrap up, and then I'll shift right out and end up with Blythe.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you giving all of us this opportunity to share candidates and to share people that we have grown to become friends with. And you know, some of the things Blythe said earlier about being authentic and truthful, she's lost a lot of friends. And that's true with me, too. But the other thing, and she knows this, we've talked, you gain a lot of friends when you speak out. And that's exactly what this right here is. You two are friends that I never would have had if I wasn't speaking out, you weren't speaking out, and Blythe wasn't speaking out. So, but Richard, you know what I think of you, so thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. All you do, you are definitely someone that has given a voice to a lot of people who necessarily maybe wouldn't be able to have a platform to put their voice out there. So thank you. And Blythe, you know what I think about you, too. I'm on your team. I stand with you. And you're a bad woman.
She's a bad one, man.
Thank you. It's an honor. It truly is. We have made so many new friends I wouldn't have met otherwise. So I'm
that's what we
got
to keep doing. That's one of the things that Amanda said prior to you being on about communicating. Mayor Johnson said his own version of it. And Blythe, you're doing it as well. So keep up the great work. How can folks find you and get involved with the work that you're doing?
My website is blythepotter.com, BlythePotter, like the wizard. You can also find me on all the social media apps, sadly, at Blythe Potter IN. I'm way more connected than I would like to be, but I do believe it's essential.
Absolutely. Blythe Potter, y'all. Thanks for being with us this morning. Blythe, good luck to you.
Much.
We look forward to having you back again, and take care and stay safe. Kurt, my man, as always, brother, stay safe, and thank you for what you do.
You too, man. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Be well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Henry. Another break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish, at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see cloudy skies here for today with temperatures holding rather steady. Breezy northwest winds around 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, decreasing cloud cover, a low near 38. Thursday, sunshine, a high 53 degrees. And Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high around 56. Saturday, partial sunshine, high 58. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. For those of you who called in this morning, listen, first and foremost, I'm going to apologize. We probably shouldn't have taken any calls today. I'm sorry about that. I knew that we had a full lineup literally from 6:10 and throughout the course of the show, and we're not even done yet. So my apologies there. I know some of you wanted to get some comments in with regard to the mayor, et cetera. So maybe hit me with an email at richard@wcpt820.com. I'll read it on the air or send me a text either way. But I apologize for that. So just so you know that it did not, I didn't mean that for that to happen. But busy morning, and we're just trying to get voices in today that are running for office. And of course, Mayor Johnson is already in office and trying to do a better job. We've got great leaders, guys, that are not so much on our side, but recognize where we are in this country and the things that we've got to do better, that we got to make absolutely certain that we're on top of. Retired Major General William Enyart is with us this morning, and his voice, he's a former adjutant general of the Illinois National Guard. His voice has had national attention recently because of the conversations that he's had and time he spent with Governor Pritzker in this conversation around the National Guard and in this conversation about the use of military in cities. But his bandwidth is so much bigger than that. But I'm so excited to have him with us this morning. Good morning, General, and welcome to Choose Views.
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you this morning.
Absolutely. I won't ask you how you're doing. I know you've been busy as all get out these last few weeks, and you've been making it clear that there's certain things that are happening that should not happen or even be thought about. But before we get there, General, give our audience a little bit of a taste, a little bit of flavor of your background and some of the things that you've done in service to the United States of America. There you go. I got you.
How much time do we have? Well, let me just tell you that my career started in 1969 during the Vietnam War, and when I enlisted in the United States Air Force. And I come from a proud family of veterans. Between my brother, my father, and I, we've served nearly 64 years between the three of us. Either my brother or I served in the military from 1969 till 2012. One of us was on wearing those dog tags and carrying a military ID card. So we've done a lot of that. I was an enlisted guy in the Air Force, and my dad and my brother were enlisted also, and I got commissioned in 1982. And I joined the Army National Guard in 1983 and served I'm sorry, strike that, November of 82, it was nearly 83, November of 82 until 2012 when I retired. When I retired, I ran for Congress and was elected and served on the House Armed Services Committee. So as I told the Senate, United States Senate, a couple of weeks ago when I testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I've got experience at the enlisted officer, general officer, and policymaking levels. So I know that experts are held in dim repute today by some folks in this country, but I think I would much rather have a brain surgeon who's got a little experience doing it than someone right out of medical school. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I've served for decades. I was lucky enough. I had a 9-year break in service from the time I left active duty until I rejoined the Guard. And so as a result, I served in the military over the course of 6 decades from the 1960s until the 2010s. So I've seen a lot of folks come and go and a lot of different policies over those 6 decades.
Well, you know, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyhow. We're proud of, and I wanted you to be able to talk about that because too many times people will say things like "thank you for your service," but people don't realize what that really means. When we talk about serving, you've done it for a long time. You've been a part of the family that's done it. You also have a law degree from Southern Illinois University, and that all this I'm saying to lay the groundwork for some questions that were some things that we're going to talk about, and that is, you know what the hell you're doing. I mean, you've been around the block, literally. You know what you're doing. You know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, based on your educational background, based on the folks the environments of people you've been around, and your experience, literal experience in the military, and what's so important right now for so many people to understand. You just said it yourself. We need people who know what the hell they're doing. Navigating probably the largest operation in the world, and that's the U.S. federal government. And right now, General, we got some knuckleheads that are sitting at the wrong table, and I know you see it. You probably can't use that language like I can, and I still keep my language pretty clean. But you've got to sit back and say, we got the wrong people in places of such great importance and significant to millions of people's lives. How do you individually, personally sit there and go, this is just unacceptable? What do you do? How do you process that?
Well, as the old saying goes, I've been to 2 county fairs and a goat roping, and I ain't never seen anything like this. The people who have been selected by Donald Trump and put into positions of power kind of fall into 2 different categories. The one category is that they've got pretty hair and way too much gel, but they got pretty hair and they've been on Fox News and have absolutely no other qualifications. You can take the current Secretary of Defense as the leading example of that. I mean, here's a guy who puts out classified information in a signal text that he shares with half the Western world, or at least his family members and journalists. Then you've got the folks who wrote Project 2025 and are buried deep in the administration, or not so deep in the administration, the Russell Votes and the Stephen Millers, who have an ultra right-wing agenda where it's not that they want to return this country to the 1960s, they want to return it to the 1880s. They don't believe in the social networks. They don't believe in helping people. It's everybody for themselves and let the billionaires rule the world. So I have some problems with where this administration, this country, under that administration's guidance is going.
Without a doubt. How were you impacted, and what's been your view? And I know you've been asked this question, but I know our listeners want to hear this as well, your response to it. And that was, speaking of Hegseth, the generals meeting that took place a few weeks back. What were I know there was probably some intellectual thought process behind what you feel or what you think, rather, but also some visceral to that. Talk to us a little bit about both of those pieces of this.
Well, it was it was a ridiculous display of I have the power to bring you to heel, and I'm going to do it. But it served no useful purpose other than to yank on the dog leash by Secretary Hegseth, and then of course Donald Trump couldn't stand to have anybody else have the stage, so he had to horn in on it too. And the speech that he made, I just can't imagine any commander in chief making. But to bring we're in a situation where this administration is wasting so much money on these useless displays simply to make political statements. The cost to bring all these folks into Virginia from all over the world, and what kind of message are you sending out to our adversaries when you take all the top commanders and their senior enlisted advisors, the top ranking enlisted person in that organization, and you bring them into one room in Virginia? And thank heavens nothing happened. But I can tell you that as a practical matter, you never put all of the top folks in one room.
That's why the president and the vice president fly on different planes for the same strategic ability of deterrence. Sorry.
Yes. And I'm sure, we've all sat through wasted briefings, and I've had more PowerPoint rangers get up and explain something to me that I either already knew or knew better than the person presenting. But this was really a complete waste of time for these people. You could have done it in an email and said, "Hey, I don't want any fat generals, and I don't want any fat enlisted guys and gals. And by the way, yada yada yada." But what's really disturbing, what really disturbs me, is that within weeks of taking over the Defense Department, Hegseth fired the top JAGs in the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army. The top JAGs are the top lawyers. Those folks had decades of experience. They're apolitical. They know what they're talking about when it comes to international law and the law of war and all of these complex issues that the Defense Department deals with worldwide. And it's clear why they fired them. It's certainly coming clear. Mm-hmm. The illegal actions that the administration is taking in the Caribbean, they are killing people. They're sinking these boats in violation of international law, in violation of U.S. law. And the administration can't seem to decide whether they're either terrorists or they are drug smugglers that they're labeling narco-terrorists. But the United States is there. I saw a statistic this morning where to get these motorboats from where they were off the coast of Venezuela to the U.S. would have had to have refueled 20 times, 20 times in the open Caribbean Sea, where we've got hurricanes brewing at the moment. Now, Hegseth has not only fired all of the top JAGs, he's taken wants to take 600 JAGs out of the military and put them as immigration judges.
Yeah.
What is that all about? They're highly skilled lawyers. They're highly skilled military lawyers. They're not administrative law judges dealing with immigration law, although they can get up to speed quickly. But what are you doing? Why are you taking all these lawyers who advise the commanders out of these very important positions? Hegseth is doing it, and Trump is doing it because they don't want to follow the law. They don't want to know what the law is. They want to make their own law, and that's exactly what they're doing.
They want to remain lawless and present we can do what we want to do, and here's how where we're going to start. And it is, it's painful to watch, but at the same time, we know that we all have got to lean in. We've got to be our own, army, if you will, or military effort as citizens to push back on this travesty that's taking place from the federal government. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with General William Enyart, and I appreciate you being with us this morning. I want to ask you two other questions and we're going to get to the big one in the room. But this with what took place with the generals and bringing all the personnel in and all the logistical and financial parts that took place to do this, it's also kind of an opposite of being financially responsible to the people that voted for this administration. That money, whatever the price tag was, along with so many other things that Trump is doing, are counter to what they say they were going to do in terms of helping everyday Americans with groceries and gas and all the other things that are part of what they campaigned on and that the GOP campaigned on. And this is just one other example of them being wasteful to what end. And I know you probably sat back and looked at that as well from a financial standpoint. Did we lose you? No? Are we still there?
Richard, you froze up there for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you?
I can hear
me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, you froze up there, and so I missed that question.
It was. I'll tighten it up. It was basically asking you the thought about how much money was wasted with this general's effort and staff to get them to that meeting versus how much was campaigned on in terms of saving money and putting things back into the pockets of Americans who voted for Trump and the GOP. And obviously, this was one of those other wasteful moments. That's what I was saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a wasteful moment. And let's look at, for example, the deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles. Now, the number that I've heard for the cost of putting those 4,000 guardsmen in Los Angeles is $120 million. And, those guardsmen were not needed. It was clearly a wrongful deployment of that guard. And that $120 million, how much had that money instead been spent on training police officers, hiring new police officers, putting those cops out on the street? How many cops could you put out on the street for a year instead of 4,000 guardsmen for 60 days? My answer to that is I don't know, but I'm sure it's significant. And the cost that really hasn't been talked about on in the media is the cost, not just in taxpayer dollars, but the cost to the guardsmen. Mm-hmm. So you've got guardsmen who these are part-time soldiers. They're not sitting at Fort Benning or Fort Knox or Fort whatever training and doing their thing day in and day out. No, these are mechanics and bus drivers and school teachers and lawyers and so on. Virtually every occupation that we have in this country. And when they get pulled away from those jobs, most of them make more money in their civilian jobs than they do on military duty. And let me just give you an example of that. A private first class, that's an E3, a pretty low ranking enlisted person, makes about $91 a day. So for an 8-hour day, that's about $11 an hour. Here in Illinois, if you're flipping burgers, you're making $15 an hour. So these guys are sacrificing, and gals are sacrificing money to do this. Secondly, they are not there for their family. So they're not there to take the kids to the soccer games. They're not there to do the laundry. They're not there to do the grocery shopping. They're not there celebrating anniversaries and birthdays and so on. So the families are missing them as well as missing out on money. Employers, they are gone from their jobs. Now, the law is that a guardsman must be given his or her job back when they return from active duty. So that employer has to hold that job open. Well, so what does the employer do? He or she's got to hire a temporary employee, bring him in to fill that, or they got to spread that workload among other workers, or they've got to pay overtime to somebody to do that person's job. But there is that cost to the employer. All right, so the employer is not allowed to fire anybody because they're a guardsman, but when that employer gets ready to hire a new employee, mm-hmm. Do you think they're going to think twice about hiring a guardsman? You bet. So that's going to have an adverse impact, particularly if you've got that employer sitting watching his or her guardsman on duty, picking up trash in Washington, D.C. or in L.A., or spreading compost on the flower beds in a national monument in D.C. So that's going to have an adverse impact on that employer, on that family, because mama or papa who's sitting home taking care of everything while the soldier is off picking up trash in Washington, D.C., ain't going to be happy about that. Now, also, what about the soldier? These soldiers, and every soldier I had or airman that I had loved being called up for emergencies. When we had floods in the Mississippi River, or we had tornadoes, or we had ice storms, they loved being called up because they were doing what they signed up for, signed up to help their community, signed up to help their family, their friends. Or if they got deployed to Afghanistan, we had the largest combat deployment since World War II in the Illinois National Guard when I was the TAG, when I was the adjutant general. They were defending the country, or they were helping their community, the two things they signed up for. They didn't sign up to be political pawns.
Mm-mm. No. General, I appreciate you breaking that down. And it just goes to show something that we talked about earlier in the segment about why experience matters. Education is important. Yes, experience matters. All rolled together, we get a better end product, because you broke that down in such a way. You went even one level deeper to talk about how the employer may pull his or her reins back a little bit when they think about hiring again, and should I hire, as much as he or she may want to, a former military person or a National Guards person, because this could be the thing that could happen down the road. And this is where a lot of everyday people aren't thinking about this when the question comes up and says, well, the city of Chicago is the dangerous place, and we need to have the National Guard in there, or Los Angeles or Boston or Portland. Not thinking that level deeper to go, wait a minute, here's what that's going to ultimately do. When you could take that money, that $120 million, the other dollars that have been thrown around about National Guard deployment, and help it and apply that money or part of it toward the local jurisdiction's ability to better hire and better train people to do the work right there where they know the community. And it just goes to show how inept this administration is, and the fallout that everyday people are having to absorb. So that I just appreciate you breaking it down on that level and helping people have an even deeper understanding of why these deployments and even the use of ICE right now is just such an unnecessary effort from this federal government. What are some last? This weekend we had some of the biggest protests we've seen in the country, and one of the questions that I've been asked a lot, and I wanted to ask you this, and really from a how do we go forward standpoint, and that is, after what you saw this weekend, what would you add to it and say, what's next? What do we do next as a community?
Well, I think that one of the reasons that the Republican leadership, the MAGA leadership, because I don't want to cast all Republicans in this light, but the Mike Johnsons of this world, the Donald Trumps of this world, have been so viciously attacking these everyday citizens who showed up on Saturday to protest. One of the reasons they're so viciously attacking them is because they're scared to death of them. They know that if there are free and fair elections in 26, that they are going to lose the House and probably the Senate, because people are upset about all this. And I was at the demonstration, the No Kings demonstration here in Belleville, which is a town of about 50,000, St. Louis suburb, right next to Scott Air Force Base. And it was on the public square, and as I walked around that square, there were grandmothers, there were moms pushing buggies, and we had a vicious storm come through. And even after that vicious storm, and the temperature dropped 15 degrees and people were soaking wet, people stayed because they believe in this cause. These people are motivated. They're going to show up. They're going to vote. The people who were on the streets were not Marxists. They weren't terrorists. They weren't, pick an adjective that Mike Johnson or that Donald Trump has used, and these were the people who lived next door to you. And it was interesting as I observed this, and as I walked around the public square, car after car after car went through, and almost all of them were honking, waving signs, thumbs up, all that sort of thing. Now, there were a few FUs, there were a few extended middle fingers, there were a few thumbs down, but I'm going to tell you, in my estimation, it wasn't 9-1, it was 97-3 in support of the demonstrations. And there was humor. I mean, there were people dressed in frog costumes, and there were people dressed in unicorn costumes, and but these people are motivated, and they don't like what Donald Trump stands for and what he is doing to this country. He is not uniting the country; he's dividing the country, and calling your political opponents vicious names doesn't do anything to bring us together. We all go to church on Sunday, and we go to the chicken picnic, and we're not enemies. We are a nation, and we have policy differences. But let's talk about those policy differences, because you believe that lower taxes are better than a social safety network. That's fine, but let's talk about where we need to set the tax rate and why we need to set it there. Let's not call the person who is advocating for the other side nasty names, or make animated videos of somebody dropping feces on protesters. Come on now, Donald, you can do better than that.
It's crazy, man. Listen, guys. Retired Major General William Enyart he's a legend in my mind, and what you've done for the country and what you've done recently in speaking out in terms of this misuse of the government is just been epic. And I appreciate you taking some time to be with our audience this morning. We will have you back, because I know there's going to be more of this that we got to fight through. But thank you so much, General, for being with us this morning. Have a safe rest of the day, a great rest of the week, and we'll have you back soon. Does that sound good?
That sounds terrific, Richard. And I hope I can go back to commenting on Ukraine and Gaza and foreign policy instead of commenting on these kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Very well. All right, guys. This is how we do it, right up to the hour. You've been listening to Choose Views, of course, and thank you for being with us. Thanks to Mayor Johnson. Thanks to Amanda for being with us. Thanks to Blythe for being with us, and thanks to General Enyart for being with us this morning. Ain't got much else to say other than take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Fall is here and colder nights are on the way. Is your home ready to stay warm and energy efficient? Green Attic is Chicagoland's trusted expert in attic insulation, spray foam, crawl space encapsulation, and mold remediation, solutions that seal in comfort and cut down on high heating bills. If your upstairs feels drafty or your heating system is constantly running, your attic may be to blame. Their team helps balance temperatures and reduce energy waste from the top down. They also offer full-service roofing through Green Attic Roofing, covering asphalt shingles, flat roofs, premium roofing solutions, and solar panels. Every project comes with a 10-year labor warranty and instant online estimates to help homeowners replace aging roofs before winter sets in. With over 15 years of experience and over 1,000 five-star reviews, Green Attic delivers real comfort season after season. Visit greenattic.com for a free insulation consultation, or go to greenatticroofing.com for an instant roofing estimate today.
If you want thick, healthy, and gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com, or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu toughened his stance by declaring that his country is in charge of its own security.